Being able to track your mileage and expenses as a rideshare driver or even a delivery driver is extremely important. It's the only way to be able to pay $0 in taxes like I did earlier this year. In this video, I'm going to share with you how a mileage and finance tracker that I built specifically for you, all the gig workers out there, will help you stay on top of your game. We'll also talk about how we can track your mileage for free using Google Maps so that you can actually stop paying for that monthly subscription app that you're not going to need by the end of this video. Let's get started. So this is the monthly gig tracker that I made, and I made it using Notion. So here's an example of what the gig tracker would look like once you have it all filled out, but we're actually gonna start with a blank slate. So the first thing we want to put in is what shift number for the month is this? So this is going to be the first shift in this example. So we're going to go here to shift. We're going to put 1 in, and then we're going to pick which app we're using. For me, I'm primarily a Lyft driver, so obviously I'm going to use Lyft. Next, when you click on time, you want to make sure you enable the end date, and you want to include time so that we can know how long the shift was. It's very important for the next step of the calculation. Let's say 4 a.m. because 4 a.m. is actually a really good time to start. People are trying to get to work and there's not a lot of traffic or other Lyft drivers on the road. So that's when I like to start working. But eventually the traffic does start like around 7:38. So let's say we drove until 8 a.m. There we go. So just by putting in your start and end time, it automatically calculates how long your shift was, right? And then the system will also take that time and use it to do other math, like calculating how much you made per hour once we do the next step. And the next step is the gross income. So let's say I made $120 for those 4 hours. Once we put in that $120, when we come over here and look at gross dollars per hour, it shows us that we're making $30 an hour automatically just by putting in your start and end time and how much you made. Now, I want to show you how I use Google Maps to track my mileage for free, because it's time that we figure out how many miles that we drove so that we can make sure that we're getting the best picture on our finances. So here's my Google Maps. I have it on my phone and it's also on the screen. I go to my timeline and my Google Maps automatically tracks wherever I am and wherever I go, and I set it to be that way. So in this fake example, let's say 4 hours, 25 minutes is around 240 miles. So we'll put 240 and it shows you how much you made per mile automatically, right? So this is a pretty important part of the puzzle. A lot of drivers are really focused on how much they make per mile. I prefer to focus on how much I make per hour because you can't eat miles, but whatever. In this fake example, we were making 50 cents per mile, which is really terrible, even though we did really well on how much we made per hour. But no matter which way you go and which statistic you think is more reliable, by using this tracker, you'll be able to see both and compare and contrast over time. Now for expenses, we want to come down to the monthly expense tracker down here, and we want to do something very similar. For the shift number, we want to make sure the shift lines up with the shift number of that day. So the shift number is 1, and we pick the date, which is the 20th. We don't have to use the end time or include time. And we have the expense type. Right now you see that I have gas and oil in there, but we can put food if we wanted to. Just click on it and then it would enter there. We could put how much we spent on food. So let's say I spent, I don't know, $15 on a meal from Wendy's and I got a shake or something. Fat. If you had a picture of the receipt, you can also include the receipt for tax time. Very important stuff. And then let's do another one where it's still from the first shift, but it's a new line. We still use the same date, which is the 20th. And then this time it's gas and we paid $50. All right, so we have that information. Now, in order to attach that information to the monthly mileage tracker up here, we would go to expenses, tap on that. And because it's 1, we just want to add everything that has a 1 to it. So that way we know that everything is matched up. And then once we do that, bam, all of the other cells have populated. So now it shows our expenses. It shows our net income, which your net income is your gross income minus expenses. And it helps to paint a much more clear picture of what's going on. So here's just another example of what it could look like if you're using multiple apps and you have multiple lines and multiple days. I did make this gig tracker using Notion. Notion is available on mobile, even has a desktop app for Mac or Windows, and you can access it from any website. If you just want to show your accountant what you have going on, you can just send them a link to this page, just like the link you'll find below. So you can check it out right now, even without the app. When I first started using Notion, I primarily used it as a note-taking app, but then I realized I could do so much more with it, and all the things that I have learned to do with it, I've put into this gig tracker for you. In the past, I used all these apps that would charge a monthly recurring fee, and there was always some nuance to it that I didn't really like. For example, some of the apps require you to hit that you're online and hit when you're done driving so that it can accurately calculate your hours, but for me that was too much friction. I already have so many things on my mind, remembering to go on a different app, to go online after going online on Lyft, and then signing off on that app when I get home just to make sure it's accurate, it was becoming to be too much. So by using Notion in conjunction with Google Maps automatically tracking when I leave home and when I get back, and I'm able to just plug in that data into my Notion once I get home, it streamlined the process so much for me that I actually do it, right? If you have one of these gig apps and you find yourself paying for it and you're not actually using it because there's something that you have to do in order to make it work, this is the system for you. This is the system you want to be using. You can also use Notion to take notes, manage tasks. You can build your whole company with this. Even for my YouTube channel, I use this as my video ideation process. Hey, look, I'll show you, right? So this is my video ideation process. Over here, I have all the potential articles I could be working on. And then I have all the ones that I've started working on. And then done, I usually just erase them. But there's so many different ways you can use Notion, and you really should use it. It's free. You don't have to pay to use Notion. You don't have to pay to use my gig tracker app. That might change in the future, but for right now, I want to focus on building it for my community. If you have any ideas that I can use to make this better, throw it in the comments or just message me over time. I'll drop my email down there too. I want to make this perfect, and I want to make it work well for all the different types of gig apps. Like I said, I primarily use it for Lyft, but someone who does Doordash might see something in this that could be better that I'm not thinking about because I don't do Doordash very often. And if you're really willing to sit down and learn how Notion works, there's nothing you can't do with it. For me, it's literally replaced every other productivity management software that I've used and condensed it all into one with just one app. Like, I can do everything here, and it frees my mind up so much. If you think that Google Maps trick was pretty cool, I'm going to make a full video detailing how to set up your Google Maps to automatically track your mileage and where you're going, just to make sure you're always on top of that for tax time. If it's ready, that video will appear right here, so go and check it out. But if it's not, go check out this other video where I made almost $900 in just one day.